Good morning and welcome to Ask Mason, our show every other week where we try to answer all the questions or keep our constituents up to date on what's going on in Enid. Very fortunate this morning, I have our airport director, Keston Cook, with me. Keston, thank you so much for being here today. I know you have a pretty busy schedule.
You know, they keep me busy out there, but it's a good thing. Keeps me out of trouble and keeps the airport moving forward. So I'm glad to do it. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, Keston, last week I had the opportunity to come out to the airport and we had a ribbon cutting on a joint use hangar that we just opened. In a second, I want to talk about why that was so important. But before we do, will you kind of back up a little bit? There has been a lot of stuff going on at Woodring Airport, hadn't there? I mean, just in the last couple of years that I've been involved with the city government again, just one project after another. Can you kind of talk about how that got started, why it's going on out there? And
yeah, absolutely. So it's been decades in the making, really. It's been nonstop progress out there for quite some time. So I've only been at the airport since 2017, hired by a guy named Ono, but you know, we've been hitting the ground running even since then. So just one thing after another. It really started especially with the Air Force side of things back in probably around the 2012 era, and we constructed the first joint use hangar. And so that's really the beginning of all this, where we partnered with Vance, and what was good for Vance could also be good for Woodring Airport and the general aviation community as a whole.
And let me stop you right there. When you say joint use hangar, those aren't the small hangars like you see for private aircraft, is it? I mean, they're large.
Yeah, these are substantial hangars. So 120 foot by 120 foot, big 90 foot wide doors. The old one has a 25 foot usable opening on the height. The new one, slightly shorter, 23 foot usable opening, because since we have one hangar that is that 25 foot opening, we didn't quite need a second one with that opening size.
Okay.
But a substantial hangar by all means, and fit a lot of planes in there and keep a lot of people safe during, you know, Oklahoma weather. It changes in an instant, and you can go from 70-degree weather and warm, sunny down to 30 and cold, snowing and ice in a blink of an eye. And so, you know, when you have those investments of, you know, planes that cost, you know, sometimes tens of millions of dollars, you want to be able to put them somewhere that it's safe and protected from those sort of weather systems.
And joint use means there can be military planes in there. At the same time, we have private planes in there, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, there's times that you walk into that hangar and you've got military T-1s, T-38s, T-6s right next to Citation 10, so very expensive corporate aviation planes, right next to, you know, a little experimental RV-6 that was home built in someone's garage.
So, ironically, here just a few months ago, when we had a hailstorm come through Enid, normally the military would take those planes, they'd have to fly them out of here, wouldn't they? And it's very expensive to fly those things, especially when you're flying almost 100 of them to another safer location.
Absolutely. So yeah, when they have to do weather evacs, it's much more beneficial for them to just hop them, you know, the 5 miles it is over to Woodring Airport and put them in our hangars. That way you're not taking them down to Texas, you know, New Mexico, up to Kansas. They fly them all over, depending on where the storm's coming from, where it's going to. And so then you have, not only do you have the plane flying far away, you know, spending all that money on gas and then having to pay another airport to hangar them, you know, you're taking people away for the weekend from their families and that sort of thing if it happens over a weekend or over a day. So here they can stay in Enid. The, you know, family gets to go home and see their wife and kids, or, you know, their husband, whoever. And then also something else a lot of people don't think about is, you know, it takes a lot to keep these planes flying. So sometimes they land and there's something wrong with them, and it's a heck of a lot easier to just, you know, load up the trucks over at Vance, drive them, you know, 15 minutes down the road to Woodring, and they can work on them in our joint use hangar. It's set up for the maintenance for them as well.
So this last hailstorm that we had back in the summer, it was in the summertime. I don't remember the exact month, but ironically, that wasn't how my brain was going. I didn't even think about the planes out there.
Yeah.
But then I get a call from the base commander, Colonel Throckmorton, and he goes, "Hey, thank you, by the way, for letting us get all of our planes in there, and that saved us so much time." He's also thinking about he has to get a certain number of sorties in, or flights, right, for these student pilots to be able to qualify to get their wings.
Yes.
And if they're gone for 3 or 4 days, that affects their graduation, doesn't it, and when they can do that. So there is a lot that rides on being able to keep those planes right here and keeping them working.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of our bottom lines out at Woodring is, not only can we help the GA in certain ways, but if we can help Vance complete their mission in any way possible, it's beneficial for us to do that as well. And the more traffic that we have of theirs out there, it's better for us. We can sell them fuel, we can put them in the hangars, and it helps everyone.
So, I want to back up even a little bit farther. Talk about several years ago, we extended our runway.
Absolutely.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, that thing went from 5,000 feet?
Yeah, right around 6,000 usable feet to just over 8,000, or right at 8,000 usable, just over 8,000 total, about 8,613.
Yeah.
And so,
why was that important?
So, 3 aircraft that are flown over at Vance. You got the T6, their initial trainer, you have their T1, and then they have their T38. And so T38's requirements for using a runway has to be over 8,000 usable feet in length. And so back in the day, we could only support 2 of the 3 aircraft that Vance was flying. And so back then, the director at the time, Dan Onasorge, saw an opportunity to partner with the FAA and the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics. At the time, it was called the Oklahoma Aeronautics Mission, to extend the runway. And so there was a need for the military, obviously, but there was also a need to extend the runway for general aviation as well. And so we had several planes, larger corporate aircraft planes that were wanting to utilize the airport that needed right around the 7,000 foot mark usable. And so the FAA paid for a portion of that runway extension to extend it up to 7,000 feet. And then the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics and the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission partnered together with Woodring Airport and the city of Enid to get that further 8,000 foot usable runway. And so a massive undertaking. I think it's probably the largest project the airport has ever undertaken. I think the total project was $9.8 million.
If you look at that on an aerial map now, we'd move a road.
Yeah. Changed the landscape of the area around it. Absolutely. You can go back. It's kind of interesting too, going on to like Google Earth and using their timeline to scroll back and see how the place has changed. All the way back from 1995 to now, and you can see that massive change in that runway extension. Rerouted Southgate Road to bend around it, acquired more land for the airport, and then even had to extend the land even further south on the south side. A lot of people don't realize there's a strip of that land that we own for the instrument landing system on the 3-5 end of that runway.
And the reason we needed, also another reason we needed that runway extended to allow for the 3rd plane, but what was going on over at the Vance Air Force Base that we knew was coming up, that they could not make enough sorties, they couldn't get enough flights. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so we kind of refer to it, you'll hear it referred to a lot between us at Woodring and over at Vance is kind of their 4th runway. And so we've partnered with them really that much that, if you go out there on any day of the week, you almost always see their T6s, T38s, T1s, using that runway for touch and goes for practice. And so it really extends their capacity to do that in the area. There's only so many planes you can fit in a little area of airspace before it becomes really
They
crowded.
also had some bad runways over there that they had to replace, and are still doing even today, right?
As we speak right now, they're working away at rebuilding runways. So that was another instrumental piece in this, and it's really, I think it was back in kind of the 2020 era, 2021 maybe. They took down that first runway for a short period of time, and we based about 10 to 12, depending on the day, T1s out at the Woodring Airport. And so they flew sorties out there for about 4.5 months. and it worked out wonderful. We kept them up and flying. As far as I'm aware, they didn't miss a single pilot graduation because of that, even with the runway down. And we've continued. The lessons that we learned from then, we've put into place now. And so
that's right.
They don't have any based out there currently, but they did when they first initially shut down that runway. And so it's been
and
wonderful.
there's 108 community airports in the state of Oklahoma.
Yes.
And not all of them do that, is there? I mean, there's very, very few joint use airports where the military can actually come out there and land.
Yeah, it's a pretty rare, partnership that we have with them, and it's worked out wonderful. It's been beneficial to both parties involved. The increased fuel sales and the increased operations that we've had at the airport, we've been able to leverage that into doing projects that we normally wouldn't be able to do that have benefited not only the military but the general aviation population as well.
And I will also jump out there. Something I'm very proud of is our airport, out of 108 of those, are one of the only one that are in the black.
Yes.
It actually funds itself. The city does not have to subsidize that, which is another very rare thing, because we do sell jet fuel, a lot of it, don't we?
Yeah, so we're unique in that way. We are self-sustainable. We're, as you're well aware, an enterprise fund for the city of Enid, but we actually sell enough jet fuel in our hangar rentals that we pay for everything we need to do. So we're a balanced budget. At the end of the year, we are able to pay for everything that we expend. And a large part of that is because we hold the military fuel contract for the airport. And it's another unique thing about us. Not a lot of airports have a city-run FBO. So a lot of airports are owned by the city and ran by the city, but a lot of times they contract out the FBO services. And while they may own the fuel farm and have a flowage fee that they leverage on those FBOs, they don't get to see the full profits of those fuel sales. And so, is it a lot of work? Absolutely, but it's worth it. It allows us to do a lot of things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
So I want to move away just a little bit from the military use out there, which that in itself has allowed us to do a lot of things. But Director Grayson Artie's, I had the opportunity to hear him. He's over the aerospace, the Oklahoma Aerospace and Aeronautics. Did I get that right?
Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics.
Okay.
Close, yeah.
Here in Oklahoma. He was also up last week to help dedicate the new hangar.
Yes.
But he had made a statement that I think is just remarkable. Of the industries in Oklahoma that generate the most revenue, for the first time ever, agriculture is no longer going to be number 2. Aerospace is going to be number 2.
That is
and
correct.
Generating the most income. Like, if I remember the stats, it was $44 billion worth of gross revenue, only behind oil and gas in Oklahoma. And at the rate that they're moving, they could overtake that in the next few years and be the number 1 industry, which is remarkable that an entire state's main industry changes two spaces, from oil and gas to aerospace. So tell me what the future looks like and why that's so important for not just Oklahoma, but specifically Enid, Oklahoma.
Absolutely, yeah. So just as you said, we've moved up to the number 2 industry, which is incredibly exciting. A lot of people don't realize just how much investment has been put into the aviation sector in Oklahoma. They've really taken a hard look at it and realized the investments there. Something I want to point out is, Oklahoma, we're centrally located. It's the perfect spot in the United States to grow an aviation industry. You're about as close as you can get to any other part of the map, and so it makes sense to develop it here. You can bring planes in, you're a perfect stop for cross-country flights, and so that's, I think, something that a lot of people also don't realize is that it's a much more stable industry. Oil and gas, you have the ebbs and flows, oil prices change, but aviation, you don't have to worry about that. Agricultural too, yeah, you're at the mercy of the weather a lot of times. And so it's much better for the state to have that industry that's at the top to be stable, and you don't have to worry about, if the weather's going to cooperate or what the national, or even, worldwide view on oil is doing. But to go back to your original question, how does it affect here locally? Well, I think the perfect time to bring up, we just completed a hangar development study out at the airport, and so if you go out there now and you go look down at the south end of the airport, you'll see mounds of dirt where they're tearing up some soil behind, if you've been out there and you're familiar, aircraft structures. And so there's about 70 acres there. It's historically been called the Cimarron Industrial Park. And so it's prime and ready for development. So that's our current project.
That's separate from what the public always hears about the new industrial park that we've purchased, right?
Yes, separate.
This is on
airport property.
Airport
yeah,
property.
and within our fence. And so if you go out there now, we're kind of we're all developed in the area that we can. We've only got about 2 or 3 hangar spots that we can build new hangars as it stands right now. And so
I heard you say the other day you also have 40 people on a waiting list ready for hangars today.
Yes, yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of planes that want to be based here at Woodring Airport that we just don't have the space for them, unfortunately. And I think that's something you'll find a lot if you go around and talk to any airport. But yeah, 40 hangars needed for an airport of this size, pretty incredible.
Yeah. The last thing I want to finish up with is when we talk about the aviation industry and how important that is and how that industry is growing so rapidly, we're not talking about just flying planes, are we? There are companies out there that do avionics and building parts, machining parts. That's just blowing up everywhere, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I know that out at Autry, they're embracing that along with Enid High School, right?
Absolutely.
There are programs that are have already started to train students on how to get aviation type jobs.
Absolutely. So, you know, aviation is a great industry to be getting into right now. I harp that as to anyone that I can find that'll listen. But, you know, whether you want to be a pilot, there's a pilot shortage right now as the older commercial pilots get to that retirement age and they're forced into retirement. So the FAA has a mandatory retirement age for both air traffic controllers and for commercial pilots that fly for the big airlines. And so as those people, there's a large percentage of them that they're aging out. They can't fly per FAA regulations. And so there has to be that, you know, younger generation moving into that role. And so in the next few years, you know, there'll probably be a pilot shortage and there'll be a drastic need for those pilots. But just as you have those people flying and as more planes get built, you need that, you know, you need the maintenance and the things behind them to support that.
Just because you own a set of wrenches doesn't make you a aircraft mechanic.
No, it does
right?
not. Yeah, you've got to get some pretty special certification, get AMP, Airframe Mechanical and Power Plant, and so you have to go through the training and get that done, but it's a very, very lucrative field because of that. And so, you know, you take the time to learn how to do it. It can be an exceptional field to be in, and then, you know, everything from, you know, being a commercial pilot or a corporate pilot or, you know, an aerial surveyor to turning wrenches to keep those planes flying.
And those are all good paying jobs.
Exceptional paying jobs,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
And then you'll see the same thing too. There's a lot, like you said, 108 airports in Oklahoma. Now, not all of them have airport directors like we do have here in Enid, but a substantial amount of them do. And that's also an aging field. So if you're interested in the infrastructure of airports, I highly recommend that as a field as well. Whether you're an airport director, a manager, an FBO manager, operations manager, there's plenty of things that need to be done on the infrastructure side to make it so that people can fly.
So, Keston, we're going to have to leave it there today. But I just wanted to bring you on because I am not convinced that the general public realizes what an asset our airport is out there and how people in Enid, the powers that be, saw this as an opportunity years ago and started working towards that to position ourselves to take advantage of this opportunity that was coming at us like a freight train, right?
Absolutely.
And we are positioned to take advantage of every single bit of that right now. I know our ERDA group is actively looking for those businesses that want to relocate here in Enid to take care of take advantage of our airspace and our opportunities of the 70 acres we have out there, and the extension of our runway, and now the second joint use hangar that we opened last week.
Absolutely.
So I just think it is an opportunity that is going to be so beneficial to Enid over the next 10, 20 years, that the groundwork was laid a long time ago when people couldn't figure out why we were doing all that stuff out there.
Absolutely. You know, all those investments have been paid, and I truly do think that they'll pay dividends in the end.
I do too.
Whether, you know, we've got the 70 acres that are now being opened up for development. We've got one of the longest GA runways in the state of Oklahoma. You know, not quite the longest because you've got a spaceport down at Burns Flat, but a very long runway that is prime and ready for people to use it, and then also, you know, plenty of fuel. You have airspace, wide open airspace that's immediately accessible as soon as you take off. And so really you have everything you need. And so those investments that were done in the past have really primed us to be ready for those companies that are ready to come in now.
A great restaurant out there, by the way.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
If you leave hungry after eating out there, that's your own fault.
And, you know, definitely, you know, they have their barnstormer breakfast out there, a buffet breakfast every third Saturday of the month. Of course, they take off November and December for the holidays, but starting January, you know, come on out, see some planes fly in, and have some fun and eat some really, really good food.
Absolutely. Well, Keston, thank you so much for being here. We could talk for an hour and a half about what all's going on out there, but I'm excited. I'm a big fan of Woodring Airport, and I hope you are too. I hope you understand that in order to reap benefits of any industry, you have to start long before that ever gets to that fruition. So that being said, thank you for joining us today. If you have questions, send those to askmason@enid.org. I'll do my best to answer those questions. If I can, I'll find the folks that know the answers and bring them on, and just know that there's a lot of work, a lot of great things going on in your community and my community. So thank you so much, and join us again in a couple weeks. Thank you.